Welcome to the Emotions Coaching Summit 2024, brought to you by In Good Company, a global coaching training company and founder of the revolutionary Emotions Coaching Practitioner Training. If you're inspired today to continue your journey of emotions coaching, then be sure to check out our website at igcompany.co.uk for full details of that course. For now, we invite you to sit back and enjoy the amazing lineup that we have for you today from our expert speakers who are all leaders in their field. Enjoy!
Good morning, everyone. Hello, my name is Gwen Jones, and I'm the head of professional development at In Good Company. And I am delighted to be hosting this first session of our day for our amazing Emotion Coaching Summit 2024. It is my pleasure to introduce Jo Wheatley and Zoe Hawkins, and they are the co-founders and CEOs of In Good Company and creators of the amazing Emotion Coaching Practitioner Training, accredited by the ICF with 40 CCs and it's accredited with the Association for Coaching. And I can say, as someone who's taken it personally, it was transformative. It is a world first training and has already seen over 100 people trained in this essential CPD for coaches. Jo and Zoe are passionate about the need to support coaching clients with their emotions and helping to equip coaches to overcome the fear of coaching with emotions. They are master accredited coaches and qualified accredited coaching supervisors, and will be sharing the core principles of emotions coaching in this session. Sorry, y'all, first thing, right? As they break down the myths of emotions in coaching. So without any further ado from me, Zoe and Jo, it's over to you.
Wow, thank you so much, Gwen. That feels like a really grand entrance. And welcome, everybody. Loving seeing you drop into the chat where you're joining us from today. During this morning's session, Zoe and I are going to talk you through how to overcome the fear of coaching with emotions. We know that as coaches, there are many times, in fact, in every session, coaches are bringing their emotions. And when you do your initial coaching training, you may feel you've dipped your toe into the field of emotional intelligence, but then you may feel there's a little bit of a gap. So we're going to talk you through some of that today. I'm just going to bring my slides up onto the screen for you. Okay, so what we're going to be covering today is the reasons why we think there is so much fear around coaching with emotions in our coaching sessions, talking about some of the myths of emotions coaching, why it's so important, essential CPD for coaches, where it fits into coaching conversations, because sometimes the understanding is there, but it's like, how and when would I do this? So we will talk about that, and we will talk through the 6 core principles of emotions coaching. So before we get into that, and those that have done our emotions coaching practitioner training will be familiar with this, we'd really like you to start to think about your own emotions and how you feel about coaching with emotions. So if you could drop into the chat, which of these jelly beans represent how you currently feel about coaching with emotions. You'll see that each of them have got a number on them. So if you can drop in the number, but also the emotion that particular image represents for you. And that will give us a little flavour of your own relationships to coaching with emotions at the moment. So I can see quite a few 4s. What emotion does number 4 represent for you? 13, where's number 13? They're hanging off a branch there. I wonder what emotion that is representing for you. Yeah, I can see some people say wanting to learn, feel a bit clunky, can get a bit stuck, want to grow the skill, feel open to it, but a little bit precarious, feel adventurous. Yeah, interested but learning, comfortable in partnership, attempting, wanting to help. Lovely. Okay, well, hopefully that's got you really starting to connect into your own relationship to your emotions, which is just as important as learning skills and techniques and having knowledge about supporting clients in coaching conversations. And during the coaching practitioner training, you obviously have the opportunity to delve deep into your own relationship with emotions, practicing both as coach and also as coachee. So the reasons why we think people can get a little bit stuck with this is that the fear that you can hold about overstepping the boundary between coaching and therapy. Sometimes it's the fear of getting out of your depth. Like if you open up a conversation, if you ask your client about these things, you may feel, I don't know what to do if they say or respond in certain ways. Obviously, as coaches, you don't want to leave the client in a bad way or opening up something that you feel that you might need to resolve, although that obviously isn't our role. Fear of doing harm and triggering something in a client, or fear of the client triggering something that's unresolved in you. And also sometimes the fear there that it'll take too much time. And that obviously speaks to perhaps the relationship with time itself. So do any of those particularly resonate with you? Or is there any more that you would add into that we haven't covered there? Yeah, time. Shadi, you're saying time. Alison, fear of leaving the client in a bad state. Yeah. Resistance from the client. Yeah. Yeah, we haven't captured that there, have we? Yeah. So you can see that actually, it's obviously different things for different people at different times. Yeah, thank you for sharing those. Okay, Zoe, I'm going to hand over to you.
Yeah, so let's take a look at some emotions coaching myths, and it's really great seeing your comments kind of popping through. So please continue to drop those into the chat. So myth one would be that emotions are for therapy, and we hear this in coaches like coming into the space like, no, I can't work with that. That's for therapy. When the truth really is that the presence of emotions is normal, because people experience emotions when they need therapy, of course, but they experience emotions at all times in their life. They are a daily occurrence. Emotions flow through us from one minute to the next throughout our daily lives. And they are a universal human experience. Now, we may not experience them in the same ways. The way I experience sadness might be very different to the way that you do. But it is true that we all have a universal experience with our emotions. And showing and processing emotions is actually a very healthy habit to be in. It's actually when we don't process our emotions that emotions become a problem. So when in coaching, we're able to provide a space to support clients with processing the emotions in relation to the goals and outcomes that they want, that's a healthy thing to be able to do. And displaying emotions doesn't necessarily mean that the client is in struggle. So if you're working with a client and they have an emotional reaction to a question, that doesn't mean that that's about struggle. That can just mean that that is something that is coming to the surface for them. It's an insight, and our role is to help ignite insight and awareness. So myth two, and I think this is one that generates some of the fear, is that there is a clear boundary between coaching and therapy. And of course, we know that that is not the case, because every client is different and every client situation is different. And even if you speak to therapists, they will also share that their boundaries are unclear between where therapy ends and some other kind of intervention occurs. So there are no coaching police who will come and tell us if we're doing something wrong. That absolutely lies with our responsibility as coaches and practitioners to draw the line of competence with ourselves and set boundaries with our clients, with reference obviously to the coaching competency frameworks that help us to develop as coaches and practitioners. So myth three is that emotions have no place in the core coaching competencies. And if you're unfamiliar with the core coaching competencies, we can see that it's all about igniting insight awareness. It's about contracting. It's about results. And I saw in the comments about, or your clients might feel that emotions are too fluffy, but actually emotions do have a core place in the coaching competencies. And I think the next slide, we've got a closer look at what they are. So they're explicit in the ICF and they're explicit in the EMCC. And here we have some examples from the ICF. So specifically in embodies a coaching mindset, there's develop and maintain the ability to regulate one's emotions. So that's the ability to do it for ourselves so that we can role model that with our clients. It's about mentally and emotionally preparing for sessions. So making sure that we as coaches work with our own emotions so we enter a space in a healthy, grounded way. Cultivating trust and safety is about acknowledging and supporting the client's expressions of feelings perceptions, concerns, beliefs, and suggestions. So a reference there to emotions. Maintaining presence. This is a core competency where we manage one's emotions to stay present with the client. So that can be when they're in their emotions as well as when it's triggered in ourselves. And to demonstrate confidence in working with strong client emotions during the coaching process. And I think that's a really critical one. So if you're somebody who likes permission, here's the ICF saying, yes, you need to demonstrate confidence in working with strong client emotions during the coaching process. So it listens actively. It's about noticing and acknowledging and exploring the client's emotions and energy shifts, and also noticing trends in the client's behavior and emotions across sessions. So that's really helping the clients to understand what are the different patterns within the relationship that they have to their emotions that are going to both support them in the pursuit of their goal, but may also hinder them in the pursuit of their goal. And lastly, there's evokes awareness, which is helping the client to identify factors that influence current and future patterns of behavior, thinking, or emotion. So I hope this gives you a sense that they are core and critical to your performance and supporting your clients. So myth 4, my clients don't bring emotions to coaching. We hear this a lot, particularly with coaches who maybe have a style around action orientation and results-driven coaching. But the truth is that clients do bring emotions into coaching. They don't lead with their emotions, they lead with their goals. So they may lead with the goal of, I would like to secure a promotion in 6 months, or I would like to change careers. But their emotions are a source of motivation, or they're a source of where they get blocked. So it's about being curious around what's the reason my client is bringing this goal to coaching. And our theory is that all coaching is about emotions. So they may be frustrated, perhaps. So they want to identify a clear career path and secure a promotion. And that goal may be fueled by frustration in their current role, some kind of conflict in their current situation, or perhaps more hope and aspiration for joy and seeking of fulfillment. Those are all emotions based. The client is experiencing conflict at work and wants to build skills to overcome it. So that's often a reason why people engage in conflict. But why do they want to overcome the conflict? Perhaps the conflict is leaving the client feeling isolated or confused or rejected. Or perhaps the client fears conflict and avoids it, and that creates other challenges in their life. And lastly, another example we've got here is the client is struggling to decide what direction to take their business in and wants to build clarity, which is a very normal coaching goal. Doesn't look like there's any emotions in that, but what actually gets in the way of being able to make a decision? So indecisiveness is often a mask for fear of making the wrong decision or fear of the consequences of the decision that they make. So emotions are always at the center of goals that clients bring, and clients may not lead with them, but they are almost certainly there as a source of motivation or as a source of blocking the client from moving forward. So Jo, do you want to walk us through this one?
Yeah, so if you haven't already, if you're not already aligned to the important reasons for working with emotions, for us, we see emotional intimacy in that relationship between coach and client as being the foundation to world-class coaching. And in order to be able to do that, it requires honesty from the coach and the client, and also vulnerability. So it requires us to have an awareness of emotions, the full range of emotions. We know that lots of people go through their lives really only being able to identify and articulate quite a narrow range of emotions. And those of you that are familiar with the emotions wheel, for example, will know there are many, many more than that. And one of our roles is to help our clients to identify their emotions so that it can help them to work towards goals that are in alignment to their values, their beliefs, and also their emotional experience too. And clients do need this. So we work with clients in their adult state, and part of being in the adult state is being able to be in the here and now. It's being able to draw on all of their knowledge, skills, and experience, which includes their emotional awareness. And having that emotional literacy, being able to identify and express and talk about their emotions, can help them to become more compassionate with themselves and their own experience. So there's a whole list here of things that working with emotions can enable clients to do. releasing and moving through emotional blocks. Maybe they are working around confidence, for example, and we know that clients will often say, oh, I'm not a confident person. So we hear that over identification. It's almost like a complete blanket cover of one emotion. When we start to work with them around it, there's a realization that actually it's not that I'm not a confident person. I know what it feels like to feel confident, and there are actually things that I feel confident about. So what is it specifically about this goal that they are currently lacking confidence in? And then doing some change work with them around that. So that is a way that it can help them to move through emotional blocks that they're experiencing in relation to their goal in the here and now. It can help clients to embrace, and connect to different emotions. So maybe emotions that they haven't been used to experiencing. And so developing that emotional literacy and seeing that, for example, there are many different flavors of anger, there are many different flavors of sadness, there are many different flavors of happiness, and so on, can help them to live a much more enriched and much more honest life with less confusion, because we know clients can often feel confused about the emotions that they feel in relation to their goals, for example. It can help them to build resilience, so that understanding that emotions flow, they're designed to move, and when they experience an emotion, it doesn't mean they're going to experience that forever, that stuckness. So it can help to release that, and that can really support their ability to bounce back when things don't go to plan in relation to the actions they take towards achieving their goal. Emotions are also really critical when it comes to resolving inner conflict. And, we think that often clients come to coaching because there is that inner conflict. And what we mean by that is, part of me feels this and part of me feels that. And so doing the work around emotions, giving a space to acknowledge those parts, for example, can really help them to resolve that and find that sort of inner peace or equilibrium for them. And of course, developing this emotional intelligence, literacy, agility, however you want to phrase it, can enable the client to become more agile and adaptable themselves as they build their confidence around their emotions and moving towards what we call emotional freedom, which is the ability to be able to have more control and choice over our emotional experiences. So really, it's all about embracing that growth mindset and helping them to really identify, discover, and also satisfy their needs. So we've been talking about emotions coaching. We better actually talk about what we mean by this. So we believe that all effective and integrative coaching is coaching with emotions. I think it's clear from the fact we've put on a whole summit about emotions coaching and obviously the training that we have. What we mean by this is that it's about fully inviting and supporting the client to explore and align their emotions to their values, beliefs, goals, and actions, because of course coaching is action oriented. It is about that future focus, that forward movement. Zoe, is there anything you want to add there?
No, you're doing a great job, Jo. You carry on.
Okay. So where does emotions work fit into coaching? Everywhere. I'm sure you imagined that we would say that. So let's look into this in a bit more detail. So as coaches, when we're working with clients, we can support them to notice where emotions that they are describing or experiencing in the present may actually be more connected to the past than they are to the here and now. So that isn't about doing therapeutic work with them, but it's about being able to ask questions to help the client check into that and gain awareness of it. It can help them to discover if coaching is the right support for them right now, or if actually maybe another intervention it would be more helpful to them. We can help clients to release trapped or stuck emotions by learning from them. Learning is the way that we can help to unhook clients from emotions they might be stuck with. And that's really all about helping them to gain new perspective and new insight into their emotional experiences. Giving them space to reflect and process their emotions and helping them to understand their needs can also help them to move forwards. So using the principles we already know, let's take Nancy Klein, for example, and that thinking environment. I'm just thinking, so maybe we need a new phrase, which is the feeling environment around this. So really holding space and enabling clients to acknowledge their emotional experience and to be able to sit with it as well and not be rushed through emotional experiences can be really important. It's as much as about the being, how we are as a coach, as the doing, of course, which is a similar principle to all coaching. And also working with clients around their emotions can help them to redirect their attention onto the emotional experience that they want to have, rather than perhaps the emotional experience that they are currently experiencing. And then that can help them then to shift into the actions and get energized by what they want rather than what they feel that they're currently experiencing.
So let's take a look then at how we coach emotions, because we've seen, in the chat, a lot of people, concerned about resistance and concerned about the time. So as Jo said, coaching emotions is everywhere in the coaching relationship. And if we look at the chemistry conversation, this is personified really by connection and curiosity. So helping the client to see you as a safe person to do coaching with. And that's regardless of emotions or not. You want that trust and safety with your coach. And just inquiring into their emotional state. How do you feel about your goal? And how do you feel about achieving it? What will you be seeing, hearing, and feeling when you achieve your goal? And inquire into the relationship with their emotions. So you may have a client who says, I don't know how I'll feel when I achieve my goal. And that just might lead you to inquire around, how is your relationship with your emotions? Is that something that you find easy, or is that something that you find difficult? And who knows what they'll say? They might say, oh, I don't really think about it, in terms of blocking those emotions. And you might just say, would it be helpful to you to be able to think about how you would feel when you achieve your goal? And most people will, be able to access those questions. And it's a start to explore their relationship with their emotions. But linking really what they want to achieve in coaching with their emotions is important, because already you're going to start to see there if there's any emotional blocks that could be in the way. So in the first coaching session, this is about safety and awareness. So we use a pre-coaching questionnaire with our clients. I'm sure many of you have your own onboarding experiences. And in that pre-coaching questionnaire, you might look at what emotions are present. So Jo gave the example earlier of confidence. Imposter syndrome is often very familiar. These are emotionally charged barriers, I suppose, that clients will experience in the pursuit of their goals. But you may notice that emotions are not present, and their pre-coaching questionnaire is actually very dry of emotions. And that in itself can be something to bring curiosity to. So looking at, are there any gaps, look at the language used, and helping to connect the client to their emotional experience. Ongoing sessions is about you having the confidence to challenge and observe and share different insights that we can share with you throughout this summit, and bring the client's awareness to their own emotions, to the impact of other people's emotions on their own experience. So that's an important one. When you're working with people, particularly in the corporate space, you'll hear often about conflict in the workplace. How does someone's behavior lead your client to feel, and how does that influence the pursuit of their goal? And what about the impact of their emotions on others? So I know I work with leaders who want to be, great leaders, and I work with them on their leadership identity and their awareness. And we do a lot of work around identifying what behavior they're demonstrating when they feel certain things, to help them to understand the impact that they have on others. And also the impact of systemic emotions on their experience. So the things that are going on in their wider world, and that might be their family as one space, but it can be wider than that. What are the emotions within the organization? What are the emotions within the wider world that lead that client to having an experience that generates behavior that is unwanted? And then in the final coaching session, it's about acceptance and recognition. So honoring the end of the coaching relationship, perhaps sharing gratitude. For some clients, they may find it difficult to leave coaching relationships, and you may need to witness that and talk about endings and the emotions resulting in endings. But it may also be about joy. It can be about the excitement of what is possible and what can come next, and witnessing and honoring that as well. So lots of places where where emotions coaching comes up through the coaching journey. And in terms of competencies, we have developed this emotions coaching competency framework, which runs throughout our emotions coaching practitioner training. And there's 4 core pillars. It's about self, others, wider world, and then you as the coach. So as self, this is about helping the client to really identify and articulate their own emotions in connection with their goal and the connection with their thoughts, their feelings, and their behaviors related to that, and helping the client to recognize and make choices about their emotional needs. And this is always goal context dependent. We don't just dive into emotions when they come up. It's always about in the context of what the client is working with you on. Others is about that interface between how their emotional state may impact on others and how others' emotional state may impact on them, and helping them to make choices that enable them to move forward in the pursuit of their goals. The wider world is looking more at the collective emotions on their well-being. It's about the impact of their behavior on the collective wider emotional consciousness. And really, these 3 pillars together is all about everyday mental health. And coaches are at the forefront of everyday mental health and working with people. And then as the coach, there is a really important role with you as the coach to be aware of your own emotions and the relationship you have with your emotions, because they will directly influence what you are willing and able to do with clients. So an example of this is if you are somebody who feels flooded by your emotions, you may be reluctant to open up a conversation about emotions with clients for fear of them getting flooded. And so if you don't have the strategies to work with your own flooding, how are you going to support clients to work with their flooding? So the more developed and sophisticated, I suppose, relationship you have with your emotions, the more easy you find it to process your own emotions in these everyday situations, the more easy you're going to find it to support your clients in that space too. And then we look at some core skills. We have observation, challenge, sharing, and coaching activities. So observation is a skill that we all use in coaching every day. It's about helping people to identify the different patterns and trends in their behavior. It's about bringing curiosity to your coaching. Challenge is about opening up different perspectives and helping your client to see more choices. Sharing would be where you may share different concepts or reframes that help your client to open up their mind. And then specific coaching activities around emotions to help to provide structure. So what may feel like an unstructured conversation. So helping to provide some containers to work within. Back to you, Jo.
Okay. So we're going to walk you through now the 6 core principles of emotions coaching, and these are principles that Zoe and I created, and we guide people through on our training, supported with different coaching activities. You may have seen them on our website already. The first one is the principle that emotions are neither good nor bad. And the reason that this is so important is the way that we as human beings judge or experience our emotions influences how we feel about them. So there may be emotions that you feel are desirable and you want to hold on to and stay in that emotion for a long time. And there may be other emotions that you want to absolutely stay away from or get away from. So we've got an example here that if you perceive anxiety as bad, then when you feel it, you might want to get rid of it, rather than actually seeing it as data, as information, as a message. So when I feel anxious, when I notice I'm feeling anxious, what is it that I need? So maybe let's hear from some of you. Drop into the chat. What is your favorite emotion? What's the emotion that you love to experience? Lots and lots of joy. I see awe, excitement, exhilaration, wonder. Oh, some lovely ones coming through here. Amazing. Hope is one of them, calmness. Yeah. And are there any emotions that any of you feel like, oh, that's the worst one for me. That's the one I want to get away from. Do you have any feelings about that? You've got hate, revenge, embarrassment, anger, sadness, grief, rejection, shame, frustration, panic. Yeah. Okay. So sounds like this principle resonates with you, and so obviously, for a human being. So when we can introduce these principles to our clients, and we try to write them in language that feels easy to digest or to be able to relate to. And actually, our definition is irrelevant. It's really what the client's understanding is when you may offer these principles. So it can help, this particular principle can help our clients to accept all emotions, and have less of a, get away from or wanting to get towards to, and actually see all emotions as valid and as equal. It can help them to stop judging themselves and other people's emotional reactions. It can help them to make clearer choices when they have this more kind of even experience of emotions, and also to be able to take away some of the fear that they might have associated with certain emotions. So we have two particular coaching activities that we share with people related to each of the principles. And the coaching activities for principle 1 are designed to help clients to explore how they may judge or perceive their emotions and to be able to take a step back from them. So we have what's called a traffic lights activity, which is centered around, as you might imagine, red, amber, green. So a whole kind of semi-structure of questions or conversation that can support clients in that exploration. And we also have we call our emotion coaching model that helps to guide people through exploring that relationship with their emotions and helping them to start to see them all as equal and valid. So the second principle is you are not your emotions. And you may already straight away think, oh yes, I do this. So when people embody their emotional responses, they might use phrases such as, I am so angry, I am sad. So rather than saying, I am feeling angry or I am feeling sad. So when we use those expressions of I am feeling, there creates a space between the individual, us, and the emotional experience. And in that space is where we have time to make choices. So when we over-identify with an emotion, what can happen is that we can disempower ourselves from being able to process an emotion or to act from a place of choice. This is important because when we work with our clients and support them to explore this principle, it can help them to recognize where they might be over-identifying it and where they might be discounting other aspects of themselves. So we can support our clients to kind of see themselves as that whole person, much more than one particular emotion, for example. And I talked about creating this space between themselves and their emotional response where they can make choices. So it helps to interrupt perhaps what might be a well-established automatic thinking pattern, which then leads on to certain behaviours that might not be in support of their goal. So if it's not, that's where this might be helpful to work with them on. And it's really about helping them to overcome those emotional blockers. So again, we have a couple of different coaching activities that we train people in around this, and you'll see here a visual that summarizes like key aspects of one of those activities, which is called the emotional perception exercise or activity, and it helps the client to explore who they are as a whole person, which might sound like a simple question, but actually can be quite hard or challenging and complex for somebody. How they see the emotion and how they see the emotion perceiving themselves. So it's all about helping them to really explore this 360, who they are beyond a particular emotion. And as coaches, we know that working with metaphor can be really helpful to support clients to explore things that might feel quite challenging for them. And so there's a lot of metaphor embedded in the activities in this part of the training. So it helps them to reconnect with their full range of emotions. So there's the emotional perception activity and also the emotions identity model that we share with people in that particular principle. The third principle is that emotions are unmet needs. So you will already probably start to see that there is links between each of these different principles. Our emotions are inherently linked to our values. So our values being, those things that we need to have in our life in order to feel content or to feel fulfilled. When we have experiences that aren't aligned to our values, we often have very strong emotional experiences. So when you experience an emotion, it may be a signal that one of your needs is unmet or that one of your needs is met. And for some people, when they experience an emotion, there can be a fear of that emotion ending, particularly if it's a positive emotion, and that fear of, oh, what will I feel after that? Or, oh, I'm going to feel something I don't want to feel after that. So helping clients to explore what might be the need related to particular emotions in relation to their goal. And we give you an example here, like when somebody is feeling frustrated, you can ask them, I hear that you're feeling frustrated. What is it that you need right now to release that frustration? And it may be that the client says clarity or information or a conversation or an apology, or who knows what their unconscious mind might release to them. And part of the work that we're doing here is supporting our clients to explore what's in their conscious mind and also in their unconscious mind. So this particular principle of emotions can be a sign of an unmet need can help to accelerate that process of overcoming those emotional obstacles, processing experiences, and really focusing on the learnings, helping them to learn, and to change their relationship possibly with their emotions, to see them as helpful, to see them as friends, rather than as saboteurs, which might be the kind of relationship that they feel that they have. So helping them to get more at ease with their emotions, and ultimately to experience, align when they're achieving their goal. There's one thing to achieve the goal, but it's another thing to have the emotional experience they want to have in that journey towards achieving their goal. So again, we've got a couple of different activities here related to this, and you'll see a visual here of our actions model. We also have an emotional narratives activity, which is linked to this. So we start to explore some of the beliefs that the clients might have around their emotions. So they may be things like, I need to hide my emotions, I need to feel the same as other people, I need to deny my emotions, etc. So the beliefs work is so closely related to the work we already do as coaches with our clients around values, beliefs, and goals. And we see emotions as that fourth pillar. So we're really here in these activities helping to hold or create a space for them to be able to reconnect to their needs, or maybe even acknowledge them for the first time. And to help them really bring into their conscious mind, what are these beliefs that might have been running in the background that may have been affecting my emotional experience, or the emotions that I attach to certain activities or goals that I have. So I mentioned the emotional narratives. Let's go back. There's 4 here. I need to hide my emotions, I need to control my emotions, I need to deny my emotions, and I need to feel what others feel. Let me drop into the chat. Which one of those might you identify with in yourself? And do they, how might they help or hinder you?
And you might find it's all 4. I've certainly worked with clients who are like, all of them. And some of it may be context dependent, where you experience a certain narrative in a work context, for example, or another narrative perhaps with close relationships.
And I'm just seeing what's coming through at the moment. I can see all of them, but the most common one there is number 2 that I'm seeing, and with those of you that are present on this call today, which is really interesting. Yeah, and Gwen sharing that is it neurodivergent often feel number 4, which is that I need to feel what others feel. Yeah, Anastasia. Anastasia, you've got your hand raised. Is that to ask a question, or I think she may have pressed that by accident?
Well, we will whistle through the remaining slides and see if we can hold some space for questions at the end. So just a couple more principles to go. So principle 4 is emotions are not always authentic. And this is where you may be experiencing an emotion, but it's actually a mask for a more socially acceptable emotion. And typically in women, for example, sadness can be a mask for anger because your upbringing may have taught you that it is not feminine to be angry. You know, we know societally here, certainly in the UK, men typically find it quite difficult to express their emotions. So there are influences upon our emotions, which means we're not always in contact with our most authentic emotion. And that's important because if we think we're feeling sad and we try to resolve the sadness and the sadness persists, then the sadness is going to remain and we can't resolve that. Whereas if we are able to make contact with our most authentic emotion and understand what we need to resolve that, it will dissipate. And so helping clients to really deepen their self-awareness around their authentic emotions will help them enormously. And it helps to reduce overthinking and ruminating. It can help clients to process emotions more quickly so they can get into action and back to their goal. They can be clear about how they really feel, which can enhance their relationships because they're more able to clearly articulate their internal experience and probably gain a better understanding of others and resolve conflict more effectively because they aren't just taking an emotional response as what they think it means, but they can be more curious about what's actually going on. And Catherine sharing, she definitely cries when she's frustrated. Yes, we all have these quirks, don't we, around different emotional responses that come out. So what can you do with clients and what do we offer in the Emotions Coaching Practitioner Training? So we have 2 unique activities called the Emotions Constellation and the Emotions Integration Model. And both of these activities really help clients to get a meta view of their emotional relationships and everything that's going on for them so they can get in contact with those authentic emotions. And through these activities, we support our clients to understand the choices that they are or aren't making as a result of their emotions. And this really draws on the concept of perception is projection. So what is existing inside of ourselves that we may be projecting on to others? And this comes up in the coaching relationship as well. I remember working with a coach who shared that they were experiencing frustration with their client who was talking about how they were going off on a big world trip. And what that coach was actually experiencing was some envy that they didn't have that freedom in their own life. You know, so we will be projecting onto our clients. And I think it's really important as coaches to understand those projections. And we can obviously help our clients do the same. Principle 5 is emotions are interlinked. And this is where we can help our clients to identify sequences that are familiar. So there is an intrinsic link between our thoughts, our actions, and our emotions. And we are often led by one of those. We might be thought-led or feeling-led or action-led. And recognizing the connections helps us to make conscious change. And it also helps us to identify trends and patterns that may be well-trodden that we may need to interrupt in order to successfully achieve our goals. So the concept of emotions are interlinked helps our clients to identify their emotional patterns. It helps to resolve inner conflict and make clearer, quicker decisions. And it helps us to be able to change our internal state by influencing our thoughts, our emotions, or our actions. So knowing what levers really we have to pull when we're experiencing something that's in the way of getting our goal, we are able to identify the connections in our mind and in our somatic experience to get the impact and the result that we want. So in the Emotions Coaching Practitioner Training, we do this through visualization and through letter writing. And you can look at how you use observations to help your clients to identify their emotional patterns. So where are you bringing your skills forward into the coaching space? You can support your clients to process their emotions by inquiring with non-judgment and acceptance and holding space for the lightness of emotions. Like not everything has to be serious. We can bring humor and light into our coaching sessions as well. And I think that's really important to know that emotions work isn't heavy. It is invigorating, it's exciting, it's about discovery, it's about curiosity, it's about fun and joy. And often when we think about this, we think, oh gosh, that's really heavy and deep work. But clients often don't experience it that way. They will experience it as quite liberating. And the last one is you can choose your emotions. And behind this is this concept that you cannot be made to feel. And most people that come into our training at first are like, oh, I don't know if I can get behind this one. But by the end of the program, they're like, oh my gosh, yes, I can choose how I feel. Because it's about really understanding all the different options that you have for being able to influence your emotional reactions. And so when we think about the response of an event or a situation, it is ours to choose. We can also choose to be angry, and we can choose to be sad, and we can choose to be frustrated, and we can choose what we would like to experience as an alternative. And those things don't have to be immediate, but we can set emotional goals. I want to experience more joy is a valid goal. So this concept helps our clients to experience emotional freedom, be purposeful about their emotions, and learn the skills to process emotions in a fluid way and be more accepting of their own emotional reactions. And one of our previous learners summarized this really well. She said that she seemed to have spent her whole life avoiding emotions that she didn't want to feel. And in doing this program, it enabled her to look at the emotions that she wanted to experience instead. And in doing so, was able to help her clients do the same. So with this, we have two activities, the emotional clarity activity and the emotional freedom model. And this is really about inquiring with your client about what they want to feel. It's a really important question. Helping to build sensory pictures and anchors to enable them to access those states. Challenging your client to explore all the choices that they have to generate different emotions, and supporting your client to explore the relationship they have with their emotions and what they would find more helpful for their goal. So this is a really liberating principle. So this is one of the models that is the emotional freedom model. I won't go through it now for the sake of time, but as you can see, emotional freedom is a destination that is connected to our ability to express our emotions and our internal state, and also to understand the extent to which we feel emotions. And you may have some understanding of this already. My default setting was emotional stonewalling, where I would just basically deny I was feeling anything until the floodgates opened. So I'd be like, I'm okay, I'm okay, I'm okay. And then I'd experience rage when somebody gave me a small thing to do. And emotional flooding may be the alternative, that doesn't take much for the emotions to surface. So all these different areas in this model, there are strategies for supporting our clients with.
And a big part of this is normalizing the fact that as human beings, we all experience emotions. And, this model is created from lots of different people's experience and articulation of their relationship to their emotions, and helping clients to see that actually emotional freedom is a place that they are able to access. And so we support them in the normalizing and then being able to work out how they may get to that, if that is something they want to get to, and what even would that look like or be like for them, and would it even be desirable for them. So having kind of taken you through a tour of the kind of headlines of the 6 principles of emotions, which principle resonates with you the most? Drop that into the chat for us. And as you're doing that, you might also think about which principle you'd want to learn more about, which feels like, oh, that's new, or that's different, or oh, I'm noticing a reaction to that. And we are at time, difficult to manage time with so much content here, but just sharing here some testimonials of people that have trained with us on the Emotions Coaching Practitioner Training. We launched it a couple of years ago, and people that come on the training, I think the most recent cohort that we worked with last week talked about an emotions revolution. So we know that we want to empower people to have more of these conversations, and when they experience the content, feel like, yeah, how can I do more of this? So it's so much more than something that we do as coaches. It's really strongly connected to our beliefs and the positive impact that we want to create in the world. So I hope that today has been useful to walk you through how you might overcome the fear of coaching with emotions. We've talked about how it's expressly talked about in the core coaching competency frameworks. And of course, when you do your foundational coaching training, you'll be introduced to some concepts around emotions and emotional intelligence, but there's so much to fit into your initial coaching training. It can't go deeper into different aspects of it. And so that's why we created the Emotions Coaching Practitioner Training. Our last cohort for this year is October. And then we will have 3 other cohorts next year, and also our group and team coaching practitioner training, which also looks at emotions coaching through the lens of groups and teams. And that program is in June next year. So thank you so much for joining us today. I'm going to take down the screen share.
Thank you so much, Jo and Zoe, as well. And everyone that has a burning question to ask, guess what, y'all? We've got a Q&A session later on tonight. So save your questions, hold on to them, and be here at 6 o'clock so that Jo and Zoe can answer all of your burning questions about emotions as well.
Yeah, thank you.